Hello, my name is Colleen Jetter, and I'm a junior poli-sci major here at Bloomsburg, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the United States' role in the global issue of climate change. I chose this topic because it is something that I honestly find fascinating and extremely important. I am and have actively been involved in attempting to make a difference in this crisis and climate change. This is a topic that needs to be talked about more to make a difference at all. If it is not properly addressed, climate change may be a thing that wipes us all out sooner than you think. According to the United Nations, climate change is a long-term shift in weather patterns and temperature. Climate change has been a prominent issue in the world for years, but it has really come to light in the 1980s, and action began taking place in the 90s. The United States has been a part of many global discussions on the reversal or mitigation of climate change. As this is a global issue, it needs to be a group effort to combat this issue. But as a first world country and the strongest country with the strongest economy, the United States has been expected to take a lead on this time-sensitive issue. This issue is especially exciting at this moment as bills are starting to be passed and ratified here in the United States, starting actual action on climate change. You may ask, why should I care about this problem? At this point, if the temperature keeps rising at the rate that it is, within the next 100 years, it may become unsustainable for humans to live on this planet. So why are we pouring millions of dollars into research of the other planets in our solar system when ours is dying before our very eyes? As you can see, this is a chart just to show you the actual problem that climate change is right now. You can see in the 1880s to the early 1900s that it wasn't really an issue, but now, currently, from 1980 till now, every year is pretty much the hottest year on record. And you can see how much it's actually increasing, and it's not decreasing at all. It is only going up, which is not good at all. So climate change is a pertinent problem in this world. We are at a point in time where climate has been pushed off so many times that we can no longer completely reverse this damage. As I said before, scientists only really started being aware and making others aware of climate change in the 80s. At this point, much of the focus was on global warming and greenhouse gases. In 1988, an American professor named Dr. James Hansen, as you can see, suggested that humans are the ones causing the increase of temperature that we should all be concerned about and are already seeing the results of. Dr. James Hansen is the person in the United States and worldwide that really jump-started this movement. As you can see, he's on the screen and he has a quote, and it says, "Global warming has reached a level such that we can ascribe, with a high degree of confidence, a cause and effect relationship between the greenhouse effect and observed warming." The first document that came about pertaining to climate change was called the Kyoto Protocol in 1997. This document attempted to reduce CO2 emissions and reduce greenhouse gases. It was signed and accepted by many countries, but the United States was not one of them. The United States decided not to sign this international agreement since they thought it could seriously affect and hurt their economy. At this time, George W. Bush, who was the president, wanted to sign but could not get it to pass in the Senate. It ended up being unsuccessful in the long run, as no noticeable good change happened in carbon emissions. Only thing happening was CO2 emissions were increasing. According to Time magazine, during this time, only 45% of Americans felt that climate change would seriously impact their lives in their lifetime. I feel like this statement really shows the lack of understanding of the severity of the situation. And as you can see, this protocol started in Japan in 1997. A little fact about it is that it never really had deadlines or goals. It was more of just, we should work on this. We all agree we should work on this, but we don't have any time frame in order to do this. So in the early to mid 2000s is when the United States began to learn the intensity of the situation and actually understand that. By 2003, bills began to be introduced to the Senate pertaining to climate, carbon emissions, and greenhouse gas emissions. In 2007, Congress passed a bill requiring mandatory emission reporting. This allows the government and scientists to track carbon emissions from the country and actually see the trends and patterns of it. The next substantial climate policy that took place was the Paris Climate Agreement, which you've all probably heard of, and that took place in 2015. Its goal is to limit global warming as well as well below 2, preferably 1.5 degrees Celsius, comparable to pre-industrial levels. It also has on the Paris Climate Agreement that zero carbon solutions are becoming competitive across economic sectors, representing 25% of emissions. This trend may be noticeable in the power and transport sectors and has created many new business opportunities for early movers. By 2030, zero carbon solutions could be competitive in sectors representing over 70% of global emissions. Originally, the United States joined this treaty under President Obama in 2015. This is by far the biggest climate agreement internationally, as it brings together 195 countries for one common cause, something that has never been done before in this world. Unfortunately, when former President Trump took office, he withdrew from this agreement, saying it was detrimental to the United States economy. The United States was the first country to pull out of this agreement. It was a monumental deal because this marks the second time the United States pulled out or failed to join an international climate deal. This is a big stance, as the United States makes up 28% of the world's carbon emissions and had not fully partaken in the battle of climate change. Fortunately, when President Biden took office, on the first day in office, one of his big priorities was to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement, and he ended up doing that. As you can see here, it's just a comparison of the two agreements that we went over. They are slightly different. The Paris Climate Agreement, in my opinion, is a lot better and it has more goals, therefore actually making changes and forcing people to actually take action in this. So what about today? Currently, the United States is flipping the script and is trying to take a lead on climate change. Every year, under the Paris Climate Agreement, each country makes a pledge to combat climate change, and Biden plans to make an ambitious pledge to lead this battle soon. The problem with the United States finally taking the lead is that they've lost so much credibility due to not being involved and withdrawing from past agreements. What is to say that this will not happen again? According to an article entitled How the United States Can Return to Credible Climate Leadership, credible U.S. action is critical. As the world's largest economy, second largest greenhouse gas emitter, and superpower re-engaging on climate diplomacy, United States action can either dampen or accelerate global action. If the United States fails to make commitments that the rest of the world views as serious, it'll be harder to pressure other countries to take more serious action. Now that brings us to present day, where the United States can make or break their role on this planet. So much of this current problem can be fixed with the United States' strong influence, but the question is, will they follow through, or is this a short-term promise until the next election? There's a thing actually in a couple big cities all over the world. It's called the climate clock, and basically it's a clock displayed and it counts down to the time that we can no longer reverse what we've done to the planet. So currently it's about 6 years and I believe like 70 days or something, and it keeps counting down up until that point where action must happen within these next 6 years. But only time will tell if the United States takes action, but what we can say is that the country that is as powerful and technologically advanced as the United States is, they have let the planet down and have not carried their weight in climate change. Hopefully, the United States will decide to take a strong stance and truly combat this problem that could inevitably end us all. And these are my sources. Thank you.